Hi, I'm Katie G with Saltwire, and today we have somebody that did a very unique celebration of owning their bike for 1 year by biking 100 kilometers. Kevin Wilson is with me today to talk about his adventure over the weekend. Hello, Kevin.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. How are you feeling?
Fine. Well enough.
So you biked or cycled 100 kilometers. Yes. Where did you go? What made you think I'm going to do 100 kilometers?
So there's two things, celebrating kind of having been on the road on a bike for a year now. And then I'm also towards the end of summer, I'm hoping to bike out to Lunenburg, which is about 120 kilometers taking the same path. So I'm just trying to build up kind of the capacity to do that.
You were out yesterday on Sunday. Where did you go? What did you see?
So I took kind of the most convenient route because it's also kind of the way that I would take to Lunenburg, which is the rails to trails. So that's chaining together the Chain of Lakes Trail, the BLT, and then I think it's called the St. Margaret's Bay Trail. And so essentially it's a converted rail corridor that's just been flattened out. Some parts are paved, some parts are crushed gravel. And it's flat-ish, like there's no major hills or anything. So you can kind of just go at your own pace and you're not going to struggle with any major obstacles aside from a few potholes. So you can just go basically.
Right. It would be a lot different, I assume, doing 100 kilometers on like the Cabot Trail.
Yeah, I would make it. That would be a lot.
So how long did it take you to do 100 kilometers by e-bike?
So I left here probably at like 1:30 in the afternoon, and then I got back at like 7 something, like 7:30 or so. In terms of the actual amount of time I was moving, according to the app on my phone, it was about 5 hours on the dot, which is consistent. I tried to keep like a pace of about 20 kilometers an hour straight through. Um, I know from an earlier run I did that was 80 kilometers that it's a mistake not to take breaks. I'm used to when getting around the city, making little 10-kilometer trips is probably closer to what a medium range trip would be for me on any given day. And so the idea is that like go 20 kilometers, and even if you don't necessarily feel like it, find a bench, park your bike, and drink a little bit of water, and then get back on in 5 minutes, and then go another 20 kilometers. And then at the far end of it, towards what I think is called Black Point, I just found a restaurant and stopped for a quick meal, like a really, really small snack, basically.
When you thought of doing this, did you have a day planned? Like, was it the first anniversary? And when you looked at the weather forecast, you're like, oh no.
Mixed because like I actually didn't know I was going to do it almost up until the point that I was doing it, which sounds like silly, but I kind of wanted to do something like, oh, I've been doing this for a year. It went from like I couldn't believe some of my friends bike around the city. That looks crazy to like, oh, I am now the crazy person. So I kind of wanted to do something along these lines. But in terms of the weather forecast, all of Sunday, it was supposed to be like the rainiest, like it was supposed to be really heavy rain right up until like lunchtime. So I kept seeing conflicting forecasts. And once I looked out at about noon and it was a completely blue sky, I just kind of went for it. I packed a bunch of rain gear with me just in case I was like 40 kilometers out of town and it started pouring buckets. And I was fully prepared to just like bail on the entire thing. But thankfully it was more just like painfully hot than it was rainy. So once you're in the woods, which the trail runs through, it's more like the humidity of it because obviously all the plants are just radiating humidity off of them. So
Right.
that's something probably anyone that was on the trails yesterday could, from a kilometer away, hear me like heavy breathing, especially on the way back after I've done like 80 kilometers.
How has it been your year of having e-bike? I know you do explore the city, and especially bike lanes. What has it been like? Is that something you would recommend to someone? Do you think that there's any cautionary tales of it?
Yeah, I'd say like in general, it's been pretty good. Like there's the city has a bike network and it's more concentrated definitely on the peninsula and some parts of Dartmouth. So it's kind of your mileage may vary based on kind of where your trips are going, like where you live and where you work and kind of where you get your groceries from. So I think like if you live on the peninsula, generally speaking, you're going to be like pretty well served 9 times out of 10. Like there's probably a bunch of nuisance things you're going to encounter that every single day you cross them, you'll find annoying, like just random parts where you think you should be able to bike across it, but you can't. Um, and I try to like highlight those whenever I cover them. But yeah, if you're on the peninsula, I think probably most of the year you can get around by bike. I think once you get further out, it gets a little bit more iffy and it's based more on your individual level of confidence. I think the main mistake that people are going to make is that they're going to look at a road that they might drive down, like Quinpool or Roby or the Bedford Highway or something, and think, I could never bike down that. And if you're new to urban cycling, like you're probably right. That's going to be like a white knuckle experience that you're not going to enjoy. And your commute should never be a white knuckle experience. So a lot of times the bike network actually puts you either in a protected lane where you're going to feel and be a lot safer, or it's going to put you on a side street that has kind of designated priority for bikes, where you're just not going to encounter cars going 70, hopefully. So that's the main thing, is just take a look at the city's bike network, and depending on how far out you are from where you need to go, if it's say under 10 kilometers, it's probably pretty bikeable even by someone who's a beginner.
I've always been interested in them, but I would huff and puff on flat ground covering about 100 meters. So your 100-kilometer journey is just incredible to me, and especially now that I know is kind of like on a whim. That's so cool. That must have felt so cool to just be able to, go and do it. You just go.
Yeah, no, that was I had that idea in the back of my head, and I am trying to work up to kind of making a day trip out to Lunenburg. So I have to be able to do 120 at some point. So it's like, I've done 80 before. Let's go like halfway to the next interval. So I kind of benchmarked for 100, and then as soon as the kind of the app on my phone said that's it, that's 50, as like, well, one more kilometer just to be sure, and then I'm turning around and getting lunch and then going home.
I look forward to more of your adventures. Would you like to share your Twitter if people would like to follow along?
Oh, sure. So you can follow me on Twitter at WilsonCam2. And if you're interested in bike stuff, you can check out my YouTube channel at HFX by Bike.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much and have a wonderful day of rest.
Thanks, you too.
Thanks.